I always told myself I didn't need much for my birthday. No parties, no big fuss, just a slice of lemon cake, maybe a phone call or two, and someone to say, "Hey, we're glad you're still here." That's all I ever really wanted. But this year, I didn't even get that. I woke up early, like I always do, to the sound of birds outside the window and the creak of my old bones saying good morning. It was my 74th birthday. I slipped into my blue cardigan, Mark's favorite one, the one with the frayed cuffs, and shuffled into the kitchen. The house was quiet, too quiet. I brewed some weak coffee, stared out the window at the neighborhood kids racing past on their bikes, and waited for my phone to ring. It didn't. By noon, I figured maybe they were planning something special. My daughter Kelly had a habit of running late. Her husband Craig worked in real estate now, always rushing from one big meeting to the next. And the grandkids? Teenagers. Busy, I get it. But still, not even a text. I set a place for one at the table, just out of habit. I even lit a little candle I had stuck in the junk drawer. It wasn't on a cake, just an old vanilla-scented one from the grocery store. I let it burn for a bit while I ate my sandwich. No music, no noise, no happy birthday, Mom. Around 2 p.m., I logged into my online bank account, mostly to distract myself. I hadn't checked it in a while, ever since Kelly offered to help with the bills last year after my minor surgery. I'd added her as a joint account holder, trusting that she'd only use it if I ever got sick again. I remember her saying, "It's just in case, Mom. We won't touch a thing." But there it was, a large purchase from a department store I'd never been to, then another from a luxury pet grooming place, then gas, groceries, electronics, and some strange boutique with a name like Glow Haven. I scrolled back. It wasn't just today. This had been going on for months. Over $600 just last week. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Maybe I'd forgotten something. Maybe she'd mentioned it. But deep down, I knew. I had the sick feeling you get when you realize someone's been smiling at you while slipping your wallet out of your purse. Quiet betrayal, disguised as help. Still, I didn't panic. I printed the statements, made myself a cup of tea, and sat at the kitchen table to breathe. That's when my phone finally rang. "Kelly," I answered, trying not to sound cold. "Hello? Oh, hey, Mom," she said, sounding rushed. "Sorry I didn't call earlier. We've just had the busiest day." I waited. She didn't mention my birthday. Not once. She asked if I was feeling okay, if I needed anything from the store. And then she casually added, "By the way, I used the card to grab a few things. I hope that's okay." I swallowed hard. "What did you get?" "Oh, just some house stuff. Craig needed a new phone charger, and I picked up that organic lotion you like. It was on sale." I never asked for any lotion. I certainly never needed a $78 charge from Glow Haven. I didn't say that, though. I just said, "Okay." "Anyway," she said, "we might swing by tomorrow if we can. Craig's been swamped. And the kids have practice." "Sure," I said. "No problem." We hung up. I sat there in silence, hands still wrapped around the tea mug. Then I got up, blew out the little candle, and put it back in the drawer. Later that evening, I went outside to check the mail. Nothing but coupons and a flyer for a new pizza place. No card. No note. No surprise balloon tied to the mailbox like they used to do when the grandkids were little. The air had turned cold, that sharp kind of evening chill that sneaks up on you when you weren't expecting it. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around me and went back inside. I made a simple dinner. Some leftover meatloaf and half a baked potato, and watched an old black and white movie while the house sat quiet around me. I tried not to think about it, but as the credits rolled and the light from the TV flickered across the living room walls, I looked down at the bank statements again, and something shifted in me. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the feeling. The realization that someone you raised, someone you trusted with your heart, had taken advantage of your silence. They hadn't just forgotten my birthday. They'd remembered exactly where I kept my checkbook, and now, for the first time in years, I wasn't going to let it slide. The next morning, I didn't open the curtains right away. I just sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the worn carpet beneath my feet. I was thinking not just about the money, but about all the little things that led to the way Kelly always looked over her shoulder when I asked questions about the bank, the way Craig would crack jokes like, "Don't worry, we'll put it on Grandma's tab," and everyone would laugh like it wasn't true. But it was true. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this hadn't started yesterday or even last month. It had been happening for a long time. I got dressed and walked to the bank branch downtown. I didn't want to deal with the website or the 800 number where you talk to machines. I wanted to speak to a real person, someone who'd look me in the eye and tell me I wasn't crazy. The girl behind the counter had shiny black nails and a polite smile. She looked at my ID, tapped a few keys, and asked me to wait for the branch manager. Her name was Angela, late 30s, kind eyes, firm handshake. I handed her the printed statements and said, "These aren't my charges." She glanced through them, her expression tightening with every page. "Were you aware that your daughter has been accessing the account regularly?" she asked. She told me it was just for emergencies. A year ago, I had a small surgery. I gave her joint access so she could pay the bills while I recovered. But I didn't expect this. Angela nodded slowly. "Unfortunately, because she's listed on the account, legally she has the same authority you do." I felt something in my chest twist. Angela continued gently, "But if you feel you're being taken advantage of, you can remove her and open a new account. We can set up alerts so that only you control the funds." I nodded. "Yes, please, let's do that today." By noon, I had a new account. No joint access, no backup signer, just me. Angela gave me a folder with my new account info and said, "You're not the first person to go through this. You're just one of the few brave enough to fix it." That stayed with me. Brave. It had been so long since anyone called me that. When I got home, I made a list. Not just of transactions, but of moments. Things I remembered that didn't seem like much at the time but now felt like warnings. I ignored. That time Kelly asked if I could move my Social Security deposit to her bank so it was easier. The day Craig accidentally used my debit card at a hardware store. When the kids got brand new tablets after I mentioned needing help paying for a dental bill. The time I found a Target bag in the hall closet with my name on the receipt. But none of the items were mine. I sat back, stared at the list, and realized they hadn't just dipped into my account. They'd built a life on my silence, and I let them. The phone rang around 4 p.m. It was Kelly again. "Hey, Mom. So sorry we didn't make it yesterday. It was a zoo around here. The twins had soccer and Craig's car battery died. You know how it is." "Sure," I said softly. "I know how it is." She launched right into it. "We were thinking of taking a little weekend getaway. Just the two of us. Would you mind watching the kids Friday to Sunday?" There it was. No mention of my birthday. No question about how I was feeling. Just more help. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Oh, nowhere fancy." She said quickly, "Just a little spa in Vermont. Craig's treat. His commission came through, finally." I almost laughed, because I'd seen that spa name on my bank statement. 649, Craig's treat, huh? "That sounds nice," I said. "I hope you enjoy it." She paused, probably surprised I wasn't asking questions. "And yes," I said, "I'll watch the kids, bring them over after school." "Oh, Mom, you're the best. Seriously, we're lucky to have you." I hung up with a smile on my face. Not because I felt appreciated, but because for the first time in a long while, I was done pretending. That night, I went through every paper I could find: old tax forms, power of attorney documents, bank info, legal records from when Mark passed. I gathered them all, made a tidy little stack, and placed them in a manila folder. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Diane Morris, a woman who specialized in elder financial protection. A friend at the community center had mentioned her once after a similar incident with her son. Diane's voice was calm, steady. She didn't gasp. She didn't judge. She just said, "Come in. Bring everything. We'll make sure you're protected." The next morning I saw Kelly again. She dropped the twins off with their backpacks and a list of snacks they liked. She kissed my cheek and said, "We'll be back Sunday night." I smiled at her and said, "Of course. I'll take good care of them." She didn't notice anything was different. She didn't see the envelope on the corner of the kitchen counter, addressed to Diane Morris, with every piece of evidence neatly tucked inside, because they never expect the quiet ones to push back. But this time, I wasn't just planning to push, I was planning to lock the door behind me when I did. Saturday morning started like any other. The twins wanted pancakes, chocolate chip. I didn't have chips, so I chopped up a Hershey bar I kept hidden in the back of the cupboard and made do. They didn't notice the difference. They just smiled and asked if we could eat in the living room while watching cartoons. Of course, I said yes. That's what grandmas do. We pour ourselves out, even when we're running on empty. But that morning, I felt different. Stronger, clearer. Because I wasn't just playing the part anymore. I was watching, learning, gathering proof. After breakfast, I drove the kids to a birthday party. Kelly had texted me the address that morning, saying it was just down the street from their spa weekend. The coincidence made me smile. I dropped the kids off, waved the other parents, and parked my car in the shopping plaza nearby. I wasn't planning to snoop. Not exactly. But curiosity, well, it has a way of tugging on you when you've been lied to. I walked into the boutique, where I'd seen a $4 charge on my bank statement 2 weeks ago. A young woman behind the counter smiled and said, "Welcome to Marlowe & Co." I nodded politely and took a slow walk through the store. Cashmere shawls, organic facial kits, diamond-cut hairbrushes, little jars of things that looked like candles but cost more than my monthly phone bill. I walked over to the sales register and picked up a pamphlet that listed the store's loyalty program. That's when I saw it on the sample receipt, taped to the counter. Kelly's name. I blinked. It was faint, printed in gray ink, but there it was. "Thank you, Kelly Harlow. We hope you enjoy your Glow Revive spa package." Glow Revive, just like the charge on my statement. I felt my hand tighten around the edge of the counter. They weren't just borrowing money, they were living a whole other life with my money. I stepped out of the store and sat on a bench, just outside the entrance. I stared at the receipt photo I'd just snapped with my phone. Then I opened my gallery and looked at the last few pictures I'd taken over the past year. The twins playing in my backyard, a pot roast I'd made in March, a blurry sunset through my window, my feet in slippers, propped up on the recliner. Quiet things, simple things, not designer bags, not $300 face creams. It hit me then, how different our worlds had become, even though we shared the same roof for so many years. When I picked the twins up that afternoon, they were still bubbling with sugar and party favors. I smiled, drove them home, and tucked them in with grilled cheese and a movie. They never knew how heavy my heart felt. That evening Kelly called. She sounded cheerful. "Thanks again, Mom. We're having the best time." I let her talk. She described the massage, the lavender steam room, the organic teas. She didn't ask about the kids, or about me. "Just one thing," she said. "I tried to use the card to get Craig a massage too, but it was declined. Could you check it?" There it was. The line in the sand. "Kelly, I said. I closed the account. Silence. Wait. What? I closed it. I opened a new one. You're not on it. Her voice cracked slightly. Why would you do that? Because it's mine, I said simply. And you've spent enough of it. Another pause. Then she laughed, trying to lighten the tension. Come on, Mom. Don't be dramatic. We told you we'd pay you back. I didn't lend you anything, Kelly. I interrupted. You took it. You never asked. And I have the receipts to prove it. She didn't laugh anymore. You're making a big deal out of nothing, she snapped. We're family. Funny, I said. You only say that when you need something. I could hear Craig in the background asking what was going on. Kelly ended the call with a stiff, "We'll talk when we get back." But I already knew there wouldn't be any real talking, because the next time they'd see me, it wouldn't be just as the grandma who babysits and bakes cookies. It would be the woman who finally said no. I pulled out the envelope I'd prepared for Diane, the lawyer, and added one more printed photo, the receipt, with Kelly's name. Then I sealed it. I wasn't trying to ruin anyone's life. I just wanted mine back. The sun was just starting to rise when I stepped into the kitchen the next morning. A soft golden light filtered through the curtains, casting shadows across the floor. I stood there for a moment, letting the quiet of the house soak in. For once there was no sound of Kelly banging cupboard doors, or Jason shouting at the twins about brushing their teeth. Just silence. And it felt peaceful. I pulled out my notepad, the one with the worn leather cover, and sat at the kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee. I began writing. Not a letter, not a list, but a declaration. A list of everything I had paid for in the past year that wasn't mine. $200 Jason's new work laptop. $800 Kelly's business attire. Shopping spree. $320 concert tickets they swore were once in a lifetime. $2,400 spa weekend I didn't know I was sponsoring. $6,000 rent, groceries, gas, childcare. $300 that ridiculous air fryer they used once and shoved in the garage. I totaled it. $11,020. That didn't even include the times they used my card for fast food, Amazon packages, or emergencies that looked a lot like luxury to me. My hand trembled slightly. Not from rage, from realization. That money could have bought me a vacation, a reliable new car, or a medical cushion for my future. Instead, it had bought them convenience, comfort, entitlement. No more. I dressed, grabbed my purse, and drove straight to Diane's office. Come in, Margaret, Diane said, holding the door open with a warm smile. Let's get you protected. She led me into her office where the walls were lined with certificates and family photos. There was a little photo of her mother on her desk, smiling in a wide-brimmed sun hat. We sat across from each other, and I told her everything. From the empty bank account to the forgotten birthday, to the way Jason had casually mentioned pulling from your account like it was his own. Diane didn't interrupt. She let me talk. When I was done, she nodded. Let's start by formally revoking any financial access they had. She drafted a power of attorney revocation, with language so sharp it could have drawn blood. Then we updated the will. I had previously included Kelly as executor. I changed it to my cousin Laura, someone who respected boundaries. Next, Diane helped me write a formal notice, a letter to Kelly and Jason, detailing that their access to any accounts in my name was now terminated. It wasn't cruel, it was clear, respectful, unmistakable. I don't want revenge, I said, folding my hands in my lap. I just want my life back. You're not alone, Margaret, Diane said. More women than you'd believe sit in that chair saying the same thing. That comforted me more than it probably should have. That evening I came home to find the house still empty. Kelly had texted earlier that they were staying one more night at the resort, because the kids loved the pool. I didn't reply. Instead, I put the lemon cake I bought for myself in the fridge, and took a long bath. Lavender bubbles, candles lit. No one knocked on the door, no little fists pounding. No, Mom, where's the... Just quiet. It had been so long since I had a moment that belonged solely to me. The next morning, I woke up early. The birds were singing outside my bedroom window. And for a brief second, I smiled before I remembered what day it was. Kelly and Jason were coming back. I braced myself. At 9:47 a.m., the front door slammed open. "Are you kidding me?" Kelly's voice rang out before I even had a chance to pour my coffee. I turned around. She was storming in, holding her phone in the air. "You closed the account?" Jason was right behind her, arms folded like a bouncer at a bad nightclub. I stayed calm. "Yes, I did." "You didn't even tell us," she snapped. "I didn't have to. It was our family account." "No," I said calmly. "It was my account. I let you use it. You abused it. That ends now." Jason scoffed. "So you're just gonna leave us hanging?" "No," I said. "I'm going to leave you accountable." They stood there, stunned. Kelly's face turned red, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Jason, on the other hand, smirked. "You think you're teaching us some big lesson?" he said. "No," I said, walking to the table and picking up a folder. "I'm setting a boundary. Here." I handed it to them. Inside was the letter Diane helped me write. Kelly flipped through it and laughed. "You're really being dramatic now." I met her eyes. "You forgot my birthday, Kelly. But you remembered how to drain my account." That shut her up. "I'm done playing the part of the silent, generous grandmother while you two treat me like your bank. This isn't a loan, it's a lesson." They left not long after, slammed the door, shouted something from the porch I couldn't quite make out, but I didn't flinch. I didn't chase them. I didn't cry. Instead, I sat back down and finished my coffee. I looked out the window. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a guest in my own home. I felt like the owner again. Later that afternoon, I picked the twins from school. They ran to me, laughing, hugging me like nothing had changed. And in that moment, I realized something. They were the only ones who hadn't asked for anything. Not money, not access, just love. We stopped for ice cream on the way home. I let them pick whatever they wanted. One got mint chocolate chip, the other got rainbow sherbet with gummy bears. They asked if we could watch a movie together that night. "Of course," I said, because that was the kind of gift I was happy to give, not my bank account, my time, my heart. That night, I took a deep breath and called Laura my cousin. "I'm finally standing up for myself," I told her. "About time," she replied. "And Margaret, don't ever feel bad for it." "I won't. Not anymore." Friday morning arrived wearing gray clouds like a tired old shawl. The sky hadn't yet broken into rain, but it carried the weight of something unspoken, something about to fall. I stood at my window, with a cup of lukewarm tea, thinking about all the ways my life had quietly shifted over the past few weeks. It wasn't just the money they'd taken from my account. It was the silence, the way Kelly had looked at me when I asked about it, the way Jason didn't look at me at all. They hadn't taken money, they'd taken dignity, and I was ready to take it back. I changed into slacks and a pale blue blouse. Nothing too fancy, but something that felt put together, respectable. I brushed my short gray hair back and clipped on the earrings Mark bought me for our 25th anniversary. Just a small act of defiance, or maybe self-respect. At this point, they were one and the same. Gwen pulled up to the driveway exactly at 9:09 a.m. She was always punctual. Even back when we worked together at the elementary school library, she'd open the doors 5 minutes early every morning, in case someone needed quiet before the chaos. She used to say, "Ready?" she asked as I opened the car door. "More than ready," I replied, settling into the passenger seat. The drive to the neighboring town was quiet, save for the soft hum of the radio and the occasional tap of Gwen's fingers on the steering wheel. When we pulled into the lot beside the law office, I hesitated for just a second. "Still want to do this?" Gwen asked gently. "I have to," I said. Not for revenge, for peace. Elaine Burke's law office was nestled between a struggling bakery and a dusty antique store with faded bunting in the windows. The sign outside was modest. Elaine Burke, attorney at law specializing in elder law and estate planning. Elaine herself was sharp, mid-50s maybe, with short chestnut hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. Her handshake was firm but not overcompensating. The office smelled faintly of lemon polish and something else, cinnamon maybe. "Mrs. Whitaker," she greeted. "Marlene, please, come on in. Let's talk." I handed her the folder I had packed the night before. Inside were my bank statements, the revocation letter Diane helped me write, and a little note I scribbled at 2 a.m. that simply said, "This isn't about money, it's about respect." Elaine flipped through the documents quickly but carefully. Her eyes moved like a woman who had seen too many similar stories. "This isn't unusual," she finally said, glancing up. "Unfortunately, it should be." "Yes," she nodded. "But here we are." She outlined the options calmly, as if she were explaining the rules to a board game that had been stacked against me from the start. A revocable living trust, updated medical and financial power of attorney documents, a quiet clause that one caught my attention. "What's a quiet clause?" I asked. "If someone tries to contest your trust or files a claim that you're not of sound mind without basis, they're automatically disinherited." I stared at her. "You can do that." She gave a small smile. "If it's in writing and witnessed correctly, yes." I leaned back in the chair. "Add it." She also introduced a new safeguard, an elder financial protection clause, that would send an automatic report to my lawyer and trustee if large withdrawals were made without me present. I nodded. "Add that too." Gwen, who had been sitting quietly beside me the whole time, finally spoke up. "You're not just securing your future, Marlene. You're telling your story in legal language. You're saying, I'm still here, I still matter." And she was right. Elaine suggested we list a neutral third party as a backup agent for medical decisions and financial oversight. Someone who wouldn't be emotionally entangled. I immediately thought of Diane, but hesitated. "Would it complicate things?" I asked. Elaine shook her head. "It might make things easier." So we added her name. At noon, Gwen ran across the street to grab sandwiches. We sat in the office eating turkey and cheese on rye, while Elaine reviewed the final trust document. My hand started to cramp from all the signing, but with each pen stroke I felt like I was reclaiming a part of myself. "I'm also including a clause," Elaine said, "that ensures the home cannot be transferred, refinanced, or sold without your direct written approval. No exception. Even if someone pressures you or tricks you into signing something, it won't go through unless I personally verify the signature and intent." I closed my eyes for a moment. Good. We finished around 3. I walked out with a thick envelope in my hand, and something much heavier off my shoulders. That evening, I walked through the house, slowly, room by room. I opened the windows in the den, rearranged a few photos on the mantel. In the upstairs hall, I dusted Mark's old bookshelf. His mystery novels still lined the bottom row, untouched since he passed. I picked up one, The Hound of the Baskervilles, and held it for a long time. "I did it, Mark," I whispered aloud. I finally stood up. I placed the book back on the shelf and made my way downstairs. The home didn't feel hostile anymore. It didn't feel like a trap. It felt like mine again. Later, I called Diane and told her everything. Her voice was warm and proud. "Next step," she said, "is letting Kelly and Jason know. I don't want to yell. I don't want drama." "Then don't. Just tell them plainly. Facts only. I don't think they're going to take it well." "No," she said. "But they'll know where you stand, and that mattered more than how they felt." The next morning I made a decision. I wouldn't wait for some perfect moment. I'd invite them over that weekend. Sunday dinner. The way we used to do years ago, before the guilt trips and passive-aggressive sighs became the only thing filling the air. I left a message on Kelly's phone. "Dinner here on Sunday. Just the 4 of us." I'd like to talk. No response. But she'd come. Jason loved a free meal, and curiosity always outweighed conscience in that house. I spent Saturday prepping the meal: meatloaf, green beans, mashed potatoes, and a peach cobbler I hadn't made in years. Not because I was trying to win them over, but because I wanted to remember what it felt like to feed people from love instead of obligation. Sunday arrived, and with it, an edge of tension. I wore the soft gray cardigan Mark liked, set the table with real plates, and placed the documents Elaine had given me into a manila envelope on the chair beside mine. At 5:12 p.m. they arrived. Jason didn't knock. He never did. He walked in talking about traffic. Kelly followed behind, scanning the kitchen like she expected something to explode. Dinner started stiff, filled with small talk. Jason talked about work. Kelly complained about their neighbor's dog. I listened. I nodded. And then I reached for the envelope. "I need to tell you both something," I said, placing it gently on the table. "I met with an attorney. The bank account is no longer in your names, and the house has been placed in a trust. All decisions about it are now mine alone." The room froze. Jason's fork stopped midair. Kelly's hand went straight to her glass of water. "I don't understand," Jason said. "I think you do," I replied. "You're overreacting," Kelly said, the words tight. "No," I said, calm and steady. "I reacted." Finally, they sat in stunned silence. "You took from me," I continued. "You decided my birthday didn't matter, but my money did. So I made sure the next time you forget something, it won't be the balance in my account." Jason muttered something under his breath, but Kelly stopped him. "We should go," she said, standing. I didn't stop them. As they walked out, Kelly turned back and said, "This is going to change everything. You know." I met her eyes. "I know," I said, and I smiled. The morning after the letter from the bank, I found myself staring out the window longer than usual. The dew clung to the grass like it hadn't made up its mind whether to fall or stay. I stood there holding my cup of tea, lukewarm now, and thinking about all the birthdays I'd spent baking cakes for other people. And yet here I was, 68, and no one remembered mine, except the bank. My neighbor, Lily, stopped by around 10 a.m. She's younger than me by about 15 years, and always full of questions about my flowers, the roses especially. She stood on the porch with a plastic container of blueberry muffins and said, "I made extra." But I saw her eyes flicker to the mail still open on the counter. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. I smiled. I didn't answer. Sometimes when you're too tired to lie, silence does the work for you. She didn't press. "Well, let me know if you want company this weekend. I've been meaning to replant my hydrangeas, and I could use your opinion." "Sure," I said. "I'll come by." After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with that damn withdrawal slip in front of me. $5,000 gone, and not for a car repair or an emergency medical bill. No, gone because Ellie needed to upgrade her phone and didn't want to stress Josh out about money right now. That's what she said when I confronted her over the phone the night before. "Mom, you're being dramatic," she told me. "It's not like we don't plan to pay you back." I almost laughed. "With what, Ellie? Your apologies?" she huffed. "You wouldn't understand. You're retired. You don't need the money." That was the part that stuck in my throat like a bitter pill. I don't need it, as if what I had earned and saved my entire life was just bare change. I didn't yell. I didn't even argue. I hung up. Now, staring at the paper, I realized I needed something more than tea and silence. I needed someone who knew the law. I pulled out my planner and flipped to the back, where I still had a number scrawled in blue ink. Carol Ramirez, Estate and Family Law. She had helped a friend of mine after a nasty probate battle. I had written her name down on a whim 2 years ago. just in case. Today was just in case. Carol's office was tucked into a modest brick building behind the post office downtown. It smelled like cedar and copier toner. She greeted me herself. Petite, brown-haired, no nonsense, but kind in a way that didn't feel pitying. I handed her the paperwork and told her everything. Every small betrayal, every moment. I'd tried to stay silent just to keep the peace. And finally, the account withdrawal. She didn't blink. When I finished, she asked one question. Do you want them to pay you back? Or do you want to make sure they can't do it again? I didn't even hesitate. Both. Carol nodded. Then we start with boundaries, legal ones. She explained my options. A revocable living trust, a new account structure, power of attorney restrictions. She even recommended freezing the shared account, not closing it, just pausing it legally while we restructured everything. I felt my shoulders relax for the first time in days. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't being cruel. I was just reclaiming my name. Is there a will already? She asked. I nodded. One I wrote when my husband passed. But it's old. Then we'll rewrite that too. Everything fresh. With your voice in it. I signed the paperwork slowly, each stroke of the pen like pulling a stitch through skin. When we were done, she smiled. You took care of everyone else for years. Now it's your turn. That weekend, Ellie stopped by with Emma, my granddaughter. I opened the door and saw Emma holding a little stuffed rabbit she used to sleep with at my place. Her smile lit up when she saw me. Nana, she chirped. I hugged her, burying my face in her hair, and then looked up at Ellie. She didn't meet my eyes. We sat on the porch while Emma played with sidewalk chalk. I got your message, Ellie said stiffly. About freezing the account. I figured you would. That's not how we do things in this family. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. And what way is that, Ellie? Letting people take what they want because they say they love you. She didn't like that. I'm your daughter. And I'm your mother. Which is exactly why I won't let you keep treating me like a bank. There was a long silence. Then she said, I didn't think you'd go this far. I looked at her. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of upsetting her. I wasn't walking on eggshells. Or choosing the quiet path. I've gone as far as I need to, I said. And if you want a relationship with me, it's going to be on mutual respect, not guilt. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. I watched her watching Emma, drawing lopsided flowers with bright pink chalk. She doesn't know any of this, Ellie muttered. She shouldn't have to, I said. But one day, if she ever asks why Nana stopped letting people walk over her, I hope the answer makes her proud. That night, I sat on my porch alone. The stars were out, bright and wide, the kind of sky that made you feel small in a good way. I held my tea, still warm, and listened to the crickets. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe Ellie would be angry for a long time. Maybe Emma would ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. But for once, I felt like I'd finally put both feet down. This house was mine, my name, my account, my rules, and anyone who couldn't understand that, they could find another porch to sit on. I didn't plan a big scene. I didn't rehearse a speech. I just baked a small carrot cake. My favorite, not theirs. With a single candle in the center. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that presses on your chest. No balloons, no cards. No giggles or grandchildren running wild. No one had even asked if I wanted to go out. My daughter, Melissa, had texted busy day at work, love you, around noon. That was it. I set the cake down on the kitchen table, lit the candle, and looked at the flame. I whispered, Happy birthday, Margaret, to no one. Then I blew it out. That tiny puff of air felt like the last piece of me giving up on being seen. I washed the knife, covered the cake, placed a slice in the fridge. Then I grabbed my coat. I drove across town to Carol's office, the same lawyer from the library. Her building was nothing fancy, just a little converted craftsman, with blue shutters and a red door. I knocked, and she opened it herself. "You ready?" she asked. "I think so," I said. She led me into her office, where the papers were already laid out. Legal documents, banking statements, a final draft of the revocable living trust. The trust that now held what was left of my money. Money Melissa and Brad had taken without asking. Money they were hoping I'd forget. I signed each document slowly, my hands steady for the first time in weeks. Carol slid over a manila envelope. "These are your copies. Everything's airtight now. What about them?" I asked. She looked up. "You want them to know. I want them to understand what it feels like to lose something without a conversation." Carol nodded. "Then I have just the idea." The next day, I invited Melissa and Brad over for dinner. I told them I needed help with something important. Melissa texted back within 5 minutes. "Sure. Want us to bring wine?" I said. "Just bring yourselves." They arrived right on time. Funny how they always did when they thought something was in it for them. Brad gave me a quick side hug. Melissa kissed the air near my cheek. "You're looking good, Mom." I didn't respond. I led them into the dining room where the table was already set, but instead of plates and silverware, there were 2 folders at their places. Brad looked confused. Melissa looked suspicious. "What's all this?" she asked. "Before we eat," I said, "there's something I want you to read." They sat down. Melissa opened hers first. Her eyes darted across the page. I watched her face change. Confusion giving way to realization, and then something harder. Embarrassment. Maybe even fear. Brad muttered, "What is this?" "It's the paperwork for the trust I've set up," I said. "Everything I have is now under my full control, and if either of you tries to access anything again without my permission, the bank will treat it as theft." Melissa's mouth opened, but no words came. Brad, though, leaned back in his chair and scoffed. "You're overreacting." I didn't flinch. "No, I'm reacting. For once." "You could have just talked to us," Melissa said. I smiled. "Like you talked to me before transferring $114,000 out of my account?" She looked down. "I know about it," I added. "All of it." Brad tried to speak again, but I cut him off. "I trusted you both. I gave and gave and gave. And when you stopped seeing me as a person, I started seeing you clearly." Melissa's voice trembled. "We didn't mean to, but you did," I said. "You meant to take what you thought you'd get anyway. Because you assumed I'd be too old, too kind, or too tired to do anything about it." The room went quiet. I stood. "There's a carrot cake in the fridge," I said. "1 slice is already gone. The rest is for you if you still want it." Then I walked out of the room. They left not long after. No yelling, no slamming doors, just silence. And the sound of 2 people realizing the well had dried up. That night, I sat on my porch. The stars were bright. The cake slice I'd saved tasted sweeter somehow. The next morning, I got a message. "Melissa, it just said I don't know what to say." I didn't respond. She followed up the next day. "I'm sorry." Still, I didn't answer, not because I didn't care, but because it wasn't about words anymore. It was about pattern, and I wasn't stepping back into the old ones. A week passed, then another, and then one afternoon, I was in the garden pulling weeds. When a car pulled up, it was Melissa. She stepped out. No makeup, hair tied back, holding something in her hands, a worn envelope. She walked up slowly. "Hi, Mom." Hi, I brought this. It's everything. The receipts, the transfers, a check. I've been saving. It's not all of it. But it's something. She held it out. I didn't take it. Not yet. Why now? I asked. Because I realized, she said. I thought I was entitled to your help. I never saw how I'd made you feel. Disposable. I looked at the envelope. Then at her. I'm not angry anymore, Melissa. I'm just done being invisible. I know, she whispered. I took the envelope and nodded. She didn't try to come inside, just got in her car and left. And that, more than anything, felt like a beginning. Later that evening, I pulled out the check. It was for $2,000. A start. But more importantly, it wasn't a request. It wasn't a manipulation. It was a gesture. I placed it in the drawer, then went to the kitchen and baked another cake, chocolate this time. Because I didn't need an audience. I didn't need applause. I just needed to remind myself that birthdays and boundaries are meant to be honored. And from now on, I would. The morning after the court hearing, I woke up to the sound of birds outside my window. Not alarms, not notifications, just birds. The kind that used to chirp around Mark's bird feeder when he was still around to refill it. I lay there for a while, breathing in the quiet. For once it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. I got up and walked into the kitchen. The counters were still clean, from the night before. I made coffee the way I always liked it. Extra strong. Splash of cream. 2 sugars, not for anyone else, just for me. The kitchen table had become my war room. These past few weeks. Stacks of documents. Yellow legal pads. Envelopes with official seals. But today, it was empty. Just a single letter I had written to myself. The night before. Not a legal letter, not a will, just a note. You're not crazy. You're not cold. You're not selfish. You're free. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer beside the silverware, right next to a photo of Mark and me from our trip to Colorado. Before the bank accounts, before the lies, before the betrayal from the very people we raised. There was a knock at the door around 10. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened it, there stood Grace. Her head was down, her hands fidgeting in front of her. She didn't have makeup on. She wasn't holding a phone, just standing there like she didn't know how to be anything but small. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. Sure. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure if the floor would still hold her weight. She sat at the edge of the couch, her shoulders hunched forward, her knees pressed tightly together, the same way she used to sit when she was grounded as a child. I read the court decision, she said. They mailed it to us. I nodded. It was fair, she added quietly. That surprised me. I sat down across from her. Not beside her. Across. I needed that distance. I didn't come to fight, she said, or argue. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Her eyes were rimmed red. Her voice trembled, not in the way people tremble when they want forgiveness, but in the way they do when they finally realize they were wrong. I don't know how we let it get so bad, she said. I did. But I didn't say it. I thought I was helping, she went on. Managing your money was just being responsible. And the birthday? I asked, my voice soft but pointed. She flinched. That was cruel, she said. I know. There's no excuse. There it was, the admission. But I didn't feel the victory I expected to. You know, I said, I didn't want to take it this far. I didn't want courts and lawyers and judges. She looked up. Then why did you? Because, I said, you made me invisible. I could have lived with forgetting my birthday. I could have forgiven the sneaking into my accounts. But what I couldn't forgive was how quickly you made me feel like a burden. Her lip quivered. She nodded. Eyes cast down again. What happens now? She asked. I let that question sit in the room for a long time. I'm not cutting you out of my life, I said, but I am drawing lines. She looked up. The trust stays in place. No more shared accounts. No more assumptions. If you want to be part of my life, Grace, you'll have to meet me as an equal. Not as someone to manage, not as someone to pity, but as your mother. She nodded slowly. I can do that, she whispered. I hope so, I said, because this time, there won't be a second warning. She stood to leave, paused by the door. I'll call more, she said. I smiled faintly. Calls are nice. Visits are better. When she left, the house was still again. But it wasn't the old kind of stillness. It wasn't brittle or sharp. It was calm. 2 weeks later, I hosted a birthday dinner. Not for myself, but for my friend Betty from the library. She had just turned 74 and didn't want to spend it alone. So I invited the garden group, a few folks from the senior center, even Carol, the lawyer who had helped me untangle the knots my family left behind. We sat around my kitchen table, passing plates of roast chicken, green beans, and buttery rolls. There was laughter. Real laughter. The kind that makes your shoulders drop and your heart feel warm. Someone brought out a cake, chocolate, with mint frosting. Betty's favorite. I watched her blow out the candles, surrounded by people who didn't ask what she could give them. Just people who were glad she was still here. Later, as we sipped coffee and cleaned up together, Carol leaned over and said, You look different, Margaret. Lighter. I feel different, I said. You've got your life back. No, I said with a smile. I finally started living it. The next morning I made a final visit to the bank. I sat down across from the same manager who had once smiled too wide while letting my daughter access funds that weren't hers. I'm closing the old joint account, I said. She blinked. Are you sure? It's fully protected now with the court order. I'm sure, I interrupted. It took 20 minutes, but when she slid the final form across the desk and I signed my name at the bottom, I felt something deep in my chest unclench. She handed me a receipt. Is there anything else we can help with? She asked. I stood and smiled. No, I'm all set now. On my way home, I stopped by the cemetery. Mark's grave was still where it always had been, tucked beneath the shade of the big oak tree near the back. I sat on the little bench we'd placed there years ago. I handled it, love, I whispered. You don't have to worry anymore. I stayed there a while just listening to the wind through the trees. I miss you, I said quietly. But I think I'm okay now. And I was. Back at home, I opened the windows, let the breeze in, let the light hit the picture frames on the wall just right. And then I baked a cake, just for me. No candles, no guests, just flour, eggs, sugar, and healing. When it was done, I cut a small slice, sat at the table, and took a bite. It was warm, sweet, soft in the middle, exactly how life should be. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone who had lost something. I felt like someone who had taken something back. My voice, my boundaries, my name, my future. And I was just getting started.